This is Mitch, and welcome to the 1000houses.com podcast. I have Yakov Smart with me, and this is going to be a very interesting podcast for me too, because I'm not taking nearly the advantage of LinkedIn that I should. Yakov's an expert at this, but more importantly than just LinkedIn, it's the exact niche that we're going into, how to raise capital using LinkedIn. And we all need private money and private investors. I really don't care what business you're in. If you don't have some private money, at least in the waiting, you're going to miss out on something that has to happen fast, and the banks won't move fast enough, and you're going to be sitting there flat-footed because you didn't lay some groundwork. So, Yakov, how you doing today?
I'm real well. Really happy to be here, Mitch.
Where are you sitting physically right now? What city? What state?
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Scottsdale, Arizona. All right. I got lots of friends there. I say friends. I have students on the calls, and I have people I'm personally coaching from Phoenix, and that place has a lot of investors and a lot of activity, doesn't it?
It's bustling. I think it's one of the fastest growing markets too. A lot of people happen to be moving here. There's a lot of action happening.
Yeah, so let me pay homage to my sponsor, taxfreefuture.com. You have no idea what your financial advisors are not telling you. We're going to tell you what they're not telling you. We're going to tell you why they're not telling you. And then you can make your own decisions as to how to move forward with tax-deferred or tax-free retirement accounts or investment accounts. So please check out taxfreefuture.com. There's 37 little video vignettes that'll blow your mind over there. We're talking to the attorney himself who knows the ins and outs and some myths and some little known secrets. All right, taxfreefuture.com. I had to pay the bills there, Yakov, sorry. So where do we start on this? So, I think LinkedIn is certainly, so explain to us how LinkedIn is different from Facebook, pluses and minuses, okay?
Well, the biggest plus that people need to be aware of is just the caliber of person and the type of potential investor you can reach directly. I'll give you some examples. Let's actually start with a few stats. So there's about 675 million users on LinkedIn right now. The average household, and these are people from all over the world, by the way, average household income of a LinkedIn user at the time that we're having this conversation is $115,000. That's an average. So the people on LinkedIn tend to be higher income earners. They tend to be more affluent, and they're there for different reasons than a place like Facebook or an Instagram or any of the other social media. They're there to build relationships. They're there to learn. They're there to grow, and they're there to make key business contacts and learn about new opportunities. So as someone who's a real estate entrepreneur, you have to understand the caliber of person that you can reach on LinkedIn. And what LinkedIn allows you to do when you really know how to work it, and I'm sure we'll be talking about some of this on this podcast as well, is it allows you to build a hyper-targeted list of potential private investors literally within a matter of minutes, as opposed to, for example, paying a list broker a few $1,000s for a list that by the time you get it, you probably know, Mitch, is not the most up-to-date list. LinkedIn is a place with data. You can pull that data in real time. Some examples of lists that you can build on LinkedIn. You can find, for example, C-level executives at large corporations, think Google, Amazon, Boeing, Tesla, for example. You can find people who are already in venture capital, private lending, hard money lending. You can find people who work at family offices or even institutional banks who finance deals sometimes. You can find dentists, doctors, attorneys. You can find CEOs of tech companies. You can find college professors. You can find fellow alumni of the university you attended. So there's a lot of different list building angles, and you can find these people on LinkedIn who you can reach directly on their mobile devices. So it gives you, I like to say that it gives you the control of building your investor list and finding the type of private investors you're looking for.
Okay, so people like to put all this stuff in their websites and stuff, but this is an addition too, right? And then how is a website different from your LinkedIn profile, or how do they mesh?
That's a great question. So a website is very different. I would say that right now, at the time that we're having this conversation, with the recent changes to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has changed a lot even in the past couple of years since Microsoft purchased it for a couple of years ago for about $26.2 billion. That's billion with a B. And they've completely revamped the platform where now LinkedIn has, first and foremost, your LinkedIn profile has a very powerful SEO. So when someone Googles your name, and I don't care if you haven't logged into LinkedIn in a few years, when someone Googles your name, that LinkedIn profile is going to come up as one of the first few results. Okay, so even if you meet a potential contact or investor offline, they go and they Google you, that LinkedIn profile is coming up either right after your website or before your website. So it's important to make that first impression. Now, the difference also in your LinkedIn profile, it's your personal profile. Okay, so when you do this, and this is a new way of using LinkedIn that a lot of people aren't familiar with just yet, but when you do this, you can create a marketing asset that positions you a certain way, that positions you as an authority in your space, that accelerates trust with potential investors and gets the right people to take the next step and take action. You can be very specific and very concise in using your profile. And what I recommend people do as well is that they have their profile link on their website and vice versa. And the other great thing about your LinkedIn profile is business pages on LinkedIn. And so there's a difference between your personal LinkedIn profile and your LinkedIn business page. Just like on Facebook, for example, you can have a business page on LinkedIn. And what's great about business pages on LinkedIn right now, they're getting a lot of organic juice. So they're kind of like Facebook business pages used to be, if you remember, about 7-8 years ago, where you could have, let's say 1,000 likes on your Facebook business page, and you could post something and reach a large percentage of those people without having to pay to play. On LinkedIn right now, that's sort of how business pages are. And for example, you can have 100 followers on your business page. If you post something on your business page and I go and I engage with your post, people in my network are going to see that content for free. So it's another way to accelerate trust. It's another way to build up your credibility. And it's another way to get eyeballs and exposure without having to pay to play necessarily.
Okay, so are you offering to do this for people, or do you offer to show people how to do it for themselves?
It's a great question. So I put together an article a little while ago, and we talk about delegating versus outsourcing. My personal belief is, as a real estate entrepreneur, you shouldn't be doing this yourself. You shouldn't be pressing the buttons and in the weeds of the day-to-day. It's just not the highest investing.
Amen, brother. Amen. Thank you very much for that.
With that being said, though, a lot of people think when it comes to LinkedIn and lead generation marketing, that if they just outsource, that solves all their problems. They don't need to understand the strategy behind it. And that's also a flawed way of thinking. So in our programs, we show people how to build the system, because the strategy is what's most important. Strategy trumps tactics. And then how to actually delegate it and automate it, because you can automate 90% of this using different automation software. And the rest of it, if you've got what we call your LinkedIn lead generation instruction manual, you can have either an assistant, virtual assistant, intern, press the day-to-day buttons for you, and it's going to take them about 15 to 20 minutes a day. And most of that is just responding to inquiries, responding to leads, and booking, for example, calls, or getting your leads to fill out the form and take the next step. So I'm big on having a delegatable system that you keep in-house, so you cut costs, you know the metrics, you know what's taking place, and you take yourself out of the weeds of the day-to-day management.
Okay, so you're giving away a free webinar, and this is kind of key because you're also offering an incentive for people to go to the free webinar. So the free webinar is LinkedIn Capital Raising Excel. And so if you guys want to see the kind of strategy that he's talking about, how to raise capital using LinkedIn and the business profiles that are out there, go to 1000houses.com/LinkedIn Capital. And that's Kapital, okay? Capital. And get signed up for the free webinar. Now, the reason why you're going to want to do this is you're going to get a promo code that if you want to get deeper involved in the strategy that he's talking about, he has a how-to and a course $9.97 regularly, but you're going to be given a promo code if you watch the webinar that you can use within a couple of days to pick up this educational system for $4.97. So that's quite a savings. So it makes perfect sense. Go to the webinar, see what you think it is, learn more about it. And then if you're serious, you get a couple of days to get a major discount. And I want to thank you for the discount, Yakov, because we always try to get some kind of unique offer for our listeners. And, when I go on other people's show, I do the same thing. I try to do the same thing for them as a return for the favor for all the people that did it for us. But that's quite a discount, 50% off. Tell us a little bit about LinkedIn Capital Raising Excelled.
So I'll tell you about the webinar and the course too, because they sort of go hand in hand. And the webinar is a great introduction. The webinar sort of gives you an overview of my methodology for using LinkedIn to attract investors and raise capital, the MADE method. And so the title of the webinar is How to Raise More Capital and Make Key Real Estate Contacts Using LinkedIn. And you'll sort of see a demonstration, some specific examples. You'll see what the methodology is. You'll have your wheels turning. And then that next step is LinkedIn Capital Raising Accelerator. And LinkedIn Capital Raising Accelerator covers the entire step-by-step system for attracting your ideal investors using LinkedIn. And it also shows you how to literally turn into a system that takes 15 to 20 minutes a day to manage. You can delegate and is 90% automated. So it's all the ninja strategies, all the different possibilities for you on LinkedIn. And it's as in-depth as any program you'll find on the topic. And it's specifically for real estate entrepreneurs who want to raise more capital and attract investors. And some of the things, included with that program, there's a couple of bonuses available out there as well. For example, I give you an entire library of scripts and templates for what to say in your messages that you can pretty much plug and play based on your audience, based on the type of projects you're raising capital for that are highly effective. I'll show you how to automate a lot of this process. You're also going to see different content strategy, what to post, how often to post it, how to find the specific investors you're looking for. We talk about 5 different ways to do that, and I show you step-by-step examples. Plus, included with that program, every other week we have a Q&A call. So if you want specific feedback, you have specific questions, you can hop on the call, ask me live. I'll work with you personally on that group Q&A call. And we have a private Facebook group to go with it as well. So between calls, you want me to take a look at your profile, for example, or your messaging, or you've got a new type of investor you want to attract, you want to get my feedback on some strategies. I personally answer that question in the Facebook group. So it's very much, not only is it an on-demand training program, but there's a group coaching element as well that a lot of people find to be very, very valuable.
So, I have a course called Private Money Changes Everything. And I've raised, right now, the second that we're talking, I have somewhere between $24 and $26 million of private money out on the streets, already spent. I've already bought things with it, houses and properties. Private Money Changes Everything is the name of that course because it's the God's truth. I mean, you have enough capital behind you at rates that you've decided, at terms that you've decided. When I say you've decided, it got to work for both people, but you also have to have, terms and rates that work for your business. So you got to have a win-win. You go to the banks tell you what they're going to do. This is how we're going to loan you money, sir. This is what you're going to pay. This is how long we're going to loan it to you for. When you're raising private money, it's like, who wants to loan me money at this amount, at these terms and this? And we try to find, lenders that suit the business that we're in. Of course, now we would all like 0% interest, but you got to be fair on the other side too. So I really want to talk to you about including your course in with some of the mentors or some of my courses too. Maybe there's a marriage there somewhere or not, because this is definitely a different avenue to generate leads. I'm teaching people how to convert leads when they come in about a specific strategy that I teach, which is seller financing, and how to talk to private lenders and show them how they're protected about this specific strategy. You're talking about just a lead source, to get people into that funnel so that they can do the presentation that I have, Again, noting a very niche inside a niche, you know what I mean? Real estate has a lot of niches, and the deeper you niche down, the more accurate, the smaller your bullseye is, right? So when someone comes into that bullseye, you got a really good chance to have success with them. So how long is the webinar that they have?
So the free webinar is about an hour.
Okay, which is good because it's hard to say anything worthwhile in 15 minutes. So I'm glad that it was at least about an hour, because it takes about that much time to really get into the meat of anything.
Absolutely.
And so what's some of the methodologies? How do you build lists? What kind of lists can you build out of LinkedIn? Is it just one list, or how many lists can you build?
There's 5 different ways to build lists. I show some examples on the webinar as well, and certainly we get into it inside a LinkedIn Capital Raising Accelerator, but I'll give you an overview of the 5 different ways. So the first way, there's a free search on LinkedIn where you can search for free and find people based on basic criteria like job title, for example, where they live, those types of things. Second way, and this is one of my favorite ways, is you can search by groups. So this is, for example, people have self-identified that they're interested in real estate. Okay, we're learning about real estate, for example. So you can search by groups and find people who are already in communities. Same things with strategic partnerships, who may already have access to lists of the people you're looking for. Third way to do it is if you've already bought a list, for example, of accredited investors, or if you've got a spreadsheet of from other sources, or maybe you've got an email database, you can integrate that with LinkedIn and contact those people through LinkedIn as well. Fourth way, and this is one that isn't going to be the most relevant for most real estate entrepreneurs at the moment, but LinkedIn advertising. So using the LinkedIn advertising platform to build those lists and use paid traffic on LinkedIn. And the fifth way, and this is my favorite way, is to use a tool called LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And there's about 15 to 20 criteria that you can filter by. And not only can you pull people up based on job titles, based on the companies they work at, based on where they live, you can go a layer deeper based on behavior and psychographics. So for example, if you want tech founders who have expressed an interest in investing in real estate or learning about real estate, you can find those kind of people. If you want hard money lenders who are specifically focused on real estate lending in a certain area or a certain niche, you can find those types of people. Same thing with institutional investors. If you want to reach people in a certain affluent zip code who are also interested in investing in real estate or private money, you can find those types of people as well. So that search, and there's a lot of different criteria. And actually in session 1 of LinkedIn Capital Raising Accelerator, we talk about angling your list. And you mentioned, I think we're so aligned on being specific too. So we talk about being very specific in how you generate those private investor leads.
Yeah, so I want to caution people, like the first, people think, I'm in real estate, I want to borrow money to buy real estate. And of course, this doesn't just pertain to people in real estate. It could be any business that you have that needs money, you go out and try to raise capital for it. But I'm using this as an example. You're in the real estate industry, so you automatically, people interested in real estate, maybe not what or people that are real estate investors, I want to hit them. Well, no, I don't think I want to raise capital from people that are swimming in the same pond that I'm swimming in. They need what I need. I need to go find people that I probably haven't ever even thought of. Like I would go through the, tech people that are interested in investing in real estate. Now there you go.
Yep.
They're making a lot of money in tech. They're just trying to hold on to it now, and they don't want it in a 1% CD, and they're tired of gambling in the stock market.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you can search by retired people or people over 60. I don't know, all the different lists, but people over 60 that live in prominent neighborhoods. Now you're starting to narrow it down to people who might be more interested in what you're asking for, what you're looking for. And so you got to really get creative when you think about the list, and you have to try a few things, right?
Absolutely. And inside of LinkedIn Capital Raising Accelerator, I give you 25 different list angles and how to build those lists. And some of the things that you mentioned, right? By neighborhood, or that tech founder is interested in real estate investing. And it's all about the better and more specific you angle your list, the better results you're going to get. And it's fascinating just how specific you can get on LinkedIn and what kind of people you can have access to directly for raising that private capital.
Okay, so what are some of the major mistakes that people make when they start trying to raise capital?
Well, there's a lot of them. I'll give you some of the LinkedIn specific ones. As you know, there's a lot of them in general, but the biggest one is not quite understanding the difference between online and offline when it comes to building trust. Okay, because offline, I'll give you a very easy to understand example. Offline, you meet someone at an REI club or at a networking event. If you start talking and they're not really resonating with what you have to say, chances are, unless they're just really rude, they're not just going to turn their back and walk away and give you the cold shoulder. I mean, that's just, people tend to be more compassionate even if they think you're full of it, right? Online, you've got a couple words to capture their attention. They don't know you from Adam, and if they're not interested, next, they'll just move on. So it's very different. You have to be much more concise. You need to start with where people are at, okay? A lot of people like to just get into the features and benefits and all those different things. I'm big on education-based marketing. I'm big on having an educational process for accelerating trust. So you want to start with where people are at. And for you think about all the big, for example, REITs that are raising capital or crowdsourced investment opportunities online that are really big, that are raising millions, if not billions of dollars online. They're leading with education. They're leading with trust before asking for anything. And it's important to follow that type of example when using a place like LinkedIn for attracting those investors and raising private capital. Next mistake that people do is they're not specific enough in the type of investors they're looking for. Like, well, anyone who's accredited, anyone who has money is my investor. And it's just a very uphill battle if you're not going to be specific enough in your messaging. It becomes that much harder to build trust. The next big mistake is a lot of people, and this is about working smarter versus working harder. There's people out there that say you need to post 5 times a day on social media. That's BS. You don't need to post at all oftentimes if you're going to attract those investors, right? It's about building those relationships directly, and it's about working smarter instead of working harder. A lot of people aren't intentional enough and they don't have a system. And I'm big on having a system in place, working the system and reverse engineering your outcome. The other big mistakes, and part of that is in using automation and really having it be systematic, something that's based on numbers and metrics and results, right? So you have very good data to show you what's working. And if something isn't working, there are certain levers, I call them pivot levers, where you can pivot and make it start working even better. And that's all based on numbers and metrics. And the final mistake that, I think even a lot of people who are listening to this right now or watching this, some people say, okay, I can find all these people on LinkedIn, great. Let me start pitching them. So as soon as they connect, here comes a long-winded sales pitch about why what they have is the next best thing since sliced bread, and basically asking someone to invest or telling someone about their deal right away. It's a little premature, right? I mean, it doesn't accelerate trust online. They don't know you yet. You're much better off having what we call an initial lead gen offer. Or asking them a question to get them to raise their hand and gauge interest. So those are just a few of the biggest things that I'm seeing constantly. And what we're talking about, Mitch, is a new way of thinking. It's a new perspective, and it's a perspective that's highly effective for online lead generation, especially generating investor leads using a place like LinkedIn.
Yeah, so most of the listeners that we have here are entrepreneurs, but probably a greater percentage of them are real estate investors / entrepreneurs. How can real estate investors specifically optimize their LinkedIn profile?
So I'll give you the most important parts. Okay. So the very first piece of prime real estate on your profile that I see a lot of people just leave blank is that cover photo. Okay. So understand, most people, when they take a first look at your profile, it's going to be on their mobile phone. So behind your picture on LinkedIn, if you don't have this cover photo already, it's just a big blue space. Okay, you can use that cover photo to establish your branding, to direct people to your website or landing page, and to show the keywords, maybe the types of projects you're involved with. Okay, it's a great chance to make a first impression. It's a great chance to come off as credible and professional. Okay. Next thing, so that's the cover photo. That's a one-off kind of thing that's important. Next thing is you've got your LinkedIn headline. And the mistake I see a lot of real estate entrepreneurs making is their LinkedIn headline just says CEO at XYZ LLC, something like that, right? And it doesn't, you want to make your profile all about your prospect, all about your potential investor. So instead, let people know that you're expanding your pool of strategic partners or investors. Let people know what type of project you're specifically specializing in, that headline is designed to grab their attention. Or if you know they're facing a very specific problem, let them know that you're aware of that problem sooner rather than later. Then you've got your about section. And what's important about your about section is you want to use a technique I call pre-framing, and it's a technique that comes from NLP. Imagine being the one, instead of your ideal investor raising objections or asking you difficult questions, what if you were the one to pose those questions, okay? It creates a level of trust, respect, and authority when you understand the conversation happening in their mind, when you are the one to raise those common questions that you're asked, and when you demonstrate to people that you understand, because you often have investors approaching you, it sort of flips the script, and you're giving people that educational value and leading with, here are your questions, here is where to start this educational process, okay? So the about section is used for that. It's also used to tell a bit of your personal story and your background and why you're someone who's credible, why you're someone who they can trust. And I know we might have some people on this right now or in the future who are just getting started with, let's say, real estate investing. And they've been in a job for a certain amount of years, and they're thinking to themselves, how do I establish my credibility and build trust if I've only been in the business for a few months, okay? And I'll give you a couple of different angles, right? Whatever experience you've had before you got into real estate investing, there's chances are you can leverage that experience. So maybe you were an engineer, right? So engineers, we see engineers as trustworthy, analytical, intentional. These are all strengths you can demonstrate with the messaging and positioning in your profile. Or if you're someone who's, comes from tech or innovation, or maybe you've had other businesses and now you're getting into real estate investing, real estate entrepreneurship, for example, you can talk about a fresh perspective, or you can talk about the strength of your team that you're working with. These are all things, you don't have to be in the business for 30 years to build that instant type of trust and credibility. And more importantly, it's about making the other person feel seen and understood. If your profile can do that, that's really a powerful way of communicating, okay? And then lastly, what I'll say about the about section is giving people a clear and concise call to action. They're interested, what's the next step? Where can they go to learn more? Okay, what's the next thing for them to do? And I recommend that you make it black and white for them, what's going to happen when they go there, what they can expect to receive, and actually give them the link. Otherwise, they're going to say, oh, I'll check this out. This is interesting. I'll check it out later. You want to be more intentional than that. Couple more important sections on your profile that I'll mention.
Right there, I want to ask you, when you're offering to give someone a link, do you just post the link, or do you want them to give up some information to get where they're going? I'm just curious as to your stance on that.
In an ideal world, if you've got something that's a juicy offer, so for example, maybe you've got a cheat sheet on, 3 ways to do something that they're interested in, or 3 ways to invest in real estate in the new economy. I'm just, shooting from the hip on that, right? So if you've got something like that, ideally you want them to go to a simple landing page. You don't just want to send them to your website because it's an easy place to get lost for most people. They go to a simple landing page, they enter their information, they get the cheat sheet. Now they're on your list. Now you've got a lot of different ways to nurture that lead. So ideally you want them to do that, unless you've got something that's very informational, very extensive, and they're already pre-qualified. For example, they're accredited, they're the right person, and then you can give it away for free without them opting in, but you can also retarget them, which is a different rabbit hole. Yeah.
I own a company called Livecom.com, Livecom.com, where you can put up a recording and you can offer free recording of the 21 objections to loaning your money to a real estate investor. 21 things you need to know the answer to. And then I can put that in, free recording. And then what happens is I'm going to capture their phone number when they call to hear the recording. Every Livecom phone number comes with a text distribution list attached to it. And if they call from their cell phone, you're going to get their phone number.
Awesome.
You can even have inside Livecom, you could click on an instant call connect button, which means whenever someone starts listening to that recording, you get a text saying, someone from this number is listening to the recording about private lending, LinkedIn private lending right now, posing the question, like, give them a few minutes to get through this, and then they're engaged right now, you should call them, make contact, see if you can answer any more questions for them, if everything was clear. So I'm already starting to think, like, how am I going to implement some of the things that you're doing? Because I never run out of the job of raising private money. I'm carrying 30-year mortgages. So when I borrow money, I'm borrowing for 10 years, 15 years. So I'll blow through $1 million, in 10, 12 houses, or maybe less. And that money's out for an extended period of time now, 10 or 15 years. So I have to go get some more to do some more. So I'm never idle in this thing. So I was wondering, have you ever experimented with recorded calls and capturing cell phone numbers?
Recorded calls is interesting. I personally have not. Capturing cell phone numbers, I have. I'm big on text message marketing. That's just my preference is, I'm not going to be someone who calls people without having it be by appointment. That's just, I guess being an online guy, it's my generation, but I will have an automated text message that goes out and drives them to book an appointment, for example. And if the call is pre-scheduled, so there's different ways to do it. I like the idea of what's that?
I'm saying if I get a text message that someone's listening to my 21 things you need to know before you loan money to a real estate investor, I'm calling that guy the minute I think he's done listening to the recording. That's just me. And it's going to be me because I'm the one personally that wants to borrow the money, and I'm the one with a reputation. So in my personal opinion, or how I look at it, it's a highly valuable target, and I don't want anyone else to talk to them. I want to. I know that can only go so far. If you're trying to 10x this, I'm not trying to 10x it. I'm just trying to pick up another $10 million if it's one person at a time, or if I need 15 people. But can you poke holes in that for me?
Yeah, it's one thing that I talk about is marketing and selling in a way that's congruent to you, right? So some people love picking up the phone, having those one-on-one conversations. Some people are more asynchronous, where, I like automation. So that, like, if they listen to my recording, for example, when people watch the webinar, they're going to get follow-up emails. They're going to get, in some cases, text messages. And, I'll still, if having the phone call makes sense, for example, I like it to be by appointment only. But if you're in the context that you're talking about, especially if you know what to say when they pick up that phone, you know how to follow up, you're feeling confident, absolutely, because you've got that person's attention.
And it's really worth it to me. They're highly valuable to me, and I just want to introduce myself. I want them to hear my voice. I want them to know there's a real person at the end of this thing. And this is just me, and it could get to a point in my life where I have so much or so many people know my reputation now that I don't have to do that. But right now I still have to, because, you say the name Mitch Steven out there and everybody goes, so what? I'm not famous. And in that tiny little pond, maybe I'm a little more popular than the average person, but still a long ways from famous. So in asking someone to loan you their money, to me, that's a pretty tall drink of water. You're asking people to consider doing something pretty significant.
Yep.
So I feel like I need to do something, at least at this point in my career, very significant to get them to pay attention.
Right. And I would add to that too, like, if they go and they watch your recording, there's a technique, and it's a rabbit hole I don't necessarily think we're going to go down in this conversation, but you can retarget them. So over the next 7 days, every time they pull up their social media or their email, they see a little reminder, a little piece of content. There's Mitch again. It's like he's omnipresent.
He is famous, or they make it look like this guy's everywhere. Okay. Yeah. Retargeting. I understand that exactly. And, it's kind of unlimited, but also has to do with how much budget you have. A lot of people start with very little budget, so we have to do what we have to do. And then as you get some success, you can kind of build that budget a little bigger. Like, I couldn't afford retargeting, last month, but this month I had some good hits, so I'm going to try my hand at retargeting, or try retargeting. It's all baby steps. Most of us. How about you? Did you start out broke? When you started all this stuff, were you broke?
Absolutely.
Everybody I know started out broke, So here we are, like, stealing political bandit signs so we can turn them over and write our cash for houses and post and nail them on a, I say stealing. It was after the election. They were supposed to pick them up within 48 hours to get the trash off the street, but they don't. So I figured they're fair game, but everyone starts broke. And I think that's probably why educational tools like yours are very important, because we don't have any time to waste, and we certainly don't have any money to waste. So why don't we get some education before we just jump out in the middle of something we don't know anything about and start figuring it out? You've already figured it out. So, we got a free webinar for an hour. That free webinar, if you want to go further, will get you half off the educational course on exactly what to do and how you might do it and how you plug yourself into it. Go to 1000houses.com/LinkedIn Capital. That's LinkedIn Capital, CAPITAL, and check it out. Also, you can get all kinds of information. I'm going to tell you, Yakov, it's evergreen. So if you have boot camps or anything come up, you just get your people to get with my people, and you put in whatever you want your people to know. A number to call, a website to go to, whatever it is, you can change it at will. It's evergreen. And I really appreciate you talking about this subject. I'm very interested in the subject myself, because I know that I have not used LinkedIn to the level that I should. I haven't used it hardly at all. I mean, I'm there. I don't even know if what I have there is any good. So you're causing me to rethink this whole thing about LinkedIn. No doubt something I should have tried way before, because I'm having success just posting minor things on Facebook. Imagine if I was actually in a business environment and was targeting the right people, Yep. There's only 5,000 people that I can reach on my Facebook page, because I'm tapped out, and that's the limit. So I'm rethinking everything right now as I'm talking to you. Can you see my wheels turning?
I can. It's awesome.
They're kind of rusty. You might hear them. They're creaking. What would you say to the entrepreneurs out there and the newbies, maybe before we wrap it up? First of all, did I ask you everything? Did I get everything off your chest that you want to say, or is there something important that I left out? Because I'm not really familiar with this topic.
No, I think I love what you said, that you've raised, I think you mentioned 28 million, and you're still raising capital. You're constantly looking for new investors. You're constantly raising capital. And I think regardless if someone's raising for their first deal or if someone's already seasoned, I mean, this can be very applicable, and it's a way to fill that funnel for raising future capital. So it's really important. I think, you asked some good questions. It was a good introduction. Again, I want to encourage people, if they're resonating with this, to check out the webinar. And I love what you said about, and this is the message that I have around education too, how important it is to be able to sort of sharpen that sword, right? Before you go at it, before you, really embark on that hustle and take that action, is to have the right strategy, to be confident in what you're doing, and to not waste any time reinventing the wheel. I'm big on mentorship and learning from people who have been there, done that, who are very proficient in very specific areas. I think it's one of the wisest things someone can do as a business owner in building their business. Yeah.
So, and I just thought of something while you were talking, and I'm going to get this out of the way, because a lot of people think that raising private money, they have a lot of limiting beliefs about themselves in that topic. I don't have a track record. Why are people going to loan me money? I don't have good credit. Why are people going to loan me money? I don't, I'm too tall. I'm too skinny. I don't speak the English language that well. I'm the wrong color. I'm too young. I'm only 22 years old. Who's going to loan me money? And what I teach in Private Money Changes Everything is, first of all, it's not about you at all. It's about the deals and the what if scenarios. Like, what's the worst case scenario? If the answer to that is okay and satisfies your potential private lender, then it didn't have anything to do with you. Like the kind of deals that I teach, the way I teach you to borrow money using real estate as collateral, Charles Manson could have got these loans. It wouldn't have mattered. They just, I don't care how many people he's murdered. If he doesn't pay me, I'm going to get X over there. I'm going to get 123 Main Street, which is going to be fine with me. So it doesn't matter. So be careful of your limiting beliefs on raising private money, and set your goal. If all you do this year is find one person to make you a loan that you've never met before in your life, your confidence level is going to skyrocket. And because you'll have that same feeling or thought that we all did when we got that first stranger to loan us money, was, wow, if I could do it that one time, I can do it over and over again. But sometimes you just need that one, just like your first wholesale deal. It doesn't matter if you made $15,000 in your wholesale deal or you made $1,500. The point was you took something you'd never done before and you went out and you turned a buck. I always tell people, it doesn't matter how much you make on your first deal. Just make something. Get it under your belt, get it going. Same thing with raising private money. Just get one success story, even small. And then your whole belief system starts to open up. We accomplish things that we believe we can do. The problem is until you do it, you're really not sure, or some people may have this self-doubt in the back. We all have self-doubt when we've never done something, we're going out to do it, especially when you're listening to people on Zoom recordings, selling courses, you're thinking, it's a bunch of crap. Well, it's not really. I mean, I started my whole career with Carlton Sheets and Dave Delgado and buying courses from people who were telling me I could and were trying to explain to me how. Robert Allen, you can go buy property with zero down. You're a little limited in the things you can buy, but since you don't have anything, these are your choices, X, Y, and Z. You got a mine in these departments. So I went and did what he said. I bought my first house with nothing down, and then I realized I could buy the whole world under those circumstances, So let's get out there, educate yourself. I think this is a great place to start. I think LinkedIn is way better than Facebook or Craigslist or any of this other BS, where people are a lot more serious than LinkedIn. I want you to go to 1000houses.com/LinkedIn Capital, CAPITAL, and check it out. Get the free webinar, and then you got a promo code, and you can get a $1,000 course for $500 if you just decide it's for you and act within 48 hours or something like that.
Yeah, I think 4 days from the promo code. Yep.
Yeah, 4 days. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Give you a little time to soak in. I love it that you're not putting a lot of pressure on people to do it right this minute, because I hate that kind of crap. Give it time to settle in. You got 4 days to, what I think, go pray to your wife and talk to your God and see what they'll let you do it. You ever prayed to your wife and talked to your God?
Well, I'm not married, so no.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, well, maybe one of these days you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So thanks a lot, man, for being on. I appreciate it. Anything else you want to add?
No, this was good. I appreciate those insights at the end there. I think that's such an important topic, is the mindset of it all, because that determines a lot of success and a lot of getting out of the gate. So I thought that was excellent.
Yeah, but you're already shooting yourself in the foot. Well, no one's going to loan me money, so why would I even do this? I said, you're already lost, man. You need to get it. Now you really need to go get it, because you're screwing up. You're already screwed up. You're screwed up like a football bat. I mean, you can't fix that. Only one can fix that's you. So you got to get in and change that belief, because you're never going to raise any private money with that belief. And we can change your mind. I can change your mind, and Yakov can change your mind. So, but you're going to have to get in front of somebody and you have to listen to them. I mean, I'm not telling you to just buy anything anyone tells you, but I'm saying pay attention. You'll see some things that ring true that you don't have to do a lot of research on. It's, some truths just are self-evident. You don't really have to go do a bunch of research. Like when I say, probably 80 or 85% of the renters wish they owned their home if they could pay the same amount of money. I mean, I don't know. I never did a statistical study or interviewed 10 billion people to find out. But I know that most of the renters out there wish they owned if they just could pay the same amount every month as rent. And, so these are the kind of things I'm talking about. Also, our sponsor, taxfreefuture.com, has had a lot to do with how I have raised private money, because a lot of the people that you're going to meet are going to have 401ks and IRAs that they're not able to self-direct right now. You have to educate them on how they can take these big pots of money that they have that they're not really given that much, not given, what's the word?
Attention.
A lot of access. It's their money, but they can't, they have limited access. That's the word, limited access to, or future access to, but they can't do anything about anything right now. Well, Tax Free Future teaches you how to talk to these people about how, sir, you can take that $2 million you have in that 401k and you can put it over here with taxfreefuture.com, and you can self-direct it, and you can say where it goes, and you can quit letting these yahoos on Wall Street take control of your financial future and gamble your life away. You can say, You know, you can loan me $50,000 on that $120,000 building, which when you do that, you're either going to get paid as agreed or you're going to get my $120,000 building for $50,000. This is a much stronger position than the stock market, because to me, the stock market is just a big club for big people, and we're not in it. You know, no one sent me a notice about the last crash before it happened. I had to learn with all y'all out there just the same day, you know. So Tax-Free Future, our sponsors, are a great place to start too, because I can't tell you how many of my private lenders, how many of the leads that I started talking with, I had to teach them how to self-direct their funds before we could even do anything. And so it's all hand in glove. It's all good stuff. Man, Yakov, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thank you for having me, Mitch.
All right, 1000houses.com/LinkedIn Capital, CAPITAL. All right, we're out of here. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome.